The desert sun beat down mercilessly as explosions ripped through the air. Fallujah 2004, a hell on earth of dust, blood, and screams. Mike Reynolds crouched behind a crumbling wall, his Delta Force unit scattered after the ambush. 3 dead, 2 wounded, radio silent. The medical tent lay 300 yards ahead across open terrain, now a killing field as insurgent fire rained down. Mike's grip tightened on his M4. His watch showed 14:43 hours. The evac chopper would leave at 1500, with or without survivors. Through his scope, he spotted her, a female medic pinned down behind an overturned Humvee. Long brown hair escaping from beneath her helmet, blood-soaked gloves, working desperately on a wounded Marine. Victoria Morgan. He'd seen her around base. Always composed, always determined. Chambers covering fire, northeast corner. Davis southwest. On my mark. The familiar weight of responsibility settled on Mike's shoulders as his remaining men nodded grimly. No hesitation. Delta operators moved as one, a lethal symphony of precision born from thousands of hours of training and bonds forged in fire. Mike sprinted through hellbolts, kicking up dust at his feet, the world narrowing to the woman and the wounded. 20 yards out, a mortar hit. The concussive force threw him sideways, but muscle memory kept him moving. Chambers went down hard. Mike didn't look back. Couldn't. The mission was all that mattered now. He reached the Humvee, sliding in beside Victoria as rounds pinged off metal. Delta Force, he said, simply checking his weapon. Her green eyes met his steady despite the chaos. Took you long enough. Blood covered her forearms to the elbows. The Marine lay still, too still. We've got 90 seconds to reach that tent, Mike pointed. Then evac. Victoria shook her head. He'll die if we move him. He'll die if we stay. A moment of understanding passed between them, the brutal calculus of war. She nodded once, gathering her medical bag. Mike lifted the wounded Marine as Victoria administered morphine. The radio crackled to life, Davis calling in their position. Then another voice cut through. Reynolds, your 6 is hot. Coming to clean up. Ethan Harris, same unit, different moral compass. Brilliant operator, but the kind who enjoyed the killing too much. He appeared through the smoke, dropping 2 insurgents with cold efficiency, his eyes alive with something that had always made Mike uneasy. Moving now, Mike ordered. They ran, a desperate, staggering sprint across open ground. Mike felt the burn in his thigh before he heard the shot. Stumbled. Victoria gripped his arms, surprisingly strong, keeping him upright. Not today, soldier, she said through gritted teeth. Inside the medical tent, chaos reigned. Victoria worked on the Marine while another medic examined Mike's leg. Through the pain, he watched her, calm in the storm, determined, focused. When she finally turned to him, her hands were steady despite everything. Reynolds right? She cleaned his wound with practiced efficiency. Mike, he corrected, wincing, as she probed the bullet path. Victoria Morgan, you always run into gunfire, Mike. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Only on Tuesdays. Her hands paused momentarily. It's Thursday. Then I'm ahead of schedule. For a brief moment amid the blood and screams, she smiled. Then Ethan appeared at the tent flap, eyes scanning, always calculating. Brass wants us moving in tent, he said, gaze lingering on Victoria before settling on Mike with something like challenge. Think you can keep up with that leg, Reynolds? Mike met his stare evenly. Try to keep up with me, Harris. After Ethan left, Victoria worked quickly, her voice low. Your friend seems intense. Not my friend, just someone I have to trust with my life. She finished bandaging his leg, leaning close. There's a difference. Remember that. Mike would remember those words long after Fallujah, long after his service ended, long after the nightmares began. The alarm clock's red numbers glowed accusingly. 17 a.m. Mike Reynolds sat upright in bedsheets, soaked with sweat, the phantom sound of explosions still echoing in his ears. Fallujah again, always Fallujah. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, the old scar tissue pulling tight across his thigh. The small apartment in Riverdale was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing on the street below. Moonlight filtered through cheap blinds, casting prison bar shadows across the worn carpet. Mike moved silently to the bathroom, avoiding the creaky floorboard outside Sophia's room. His reflection stared back. a stranger with familiar eyes. Still fit at 42, but the years showed in the gray at his temples and the permanent lines etched around his eyes. Delta Force felt like another lifetime now. The cold water shocked his system. Reality, not memory. Present, not past. He repeated the mantra his therapist had given him before he'd stopped going. Too many questions he couldn't answer. Too many operations he couldn't discuss. He checked on Sophia, his 12-year-old daughter, sleeping peacefully, dark hair splayed across her pillow. Her mother's hair. Carolyn had been gone 4 years now. Cancer fast and merciless nothing Mike's particular set of skills could fight. He gently tucked the blanket around Sophia's shoulders. The only mission that mattered now. Morning came too quickly. Mike moved through the kitchen with military precision, preparing breakfast and lunch simultaneously. Eggs sizzled while he assembled a sandwich, sliced an apple, wrote a small note to tuck into Sophia's lunchbox. He'd seen fellow operators miss the small things when they came home. The details mattered. "Dad, have you seen my blue sweater?" Sophia appeared, still half asleep, brown eyes. His eyes blinking against the morning light. "Dryer, coffee's ready." She poured a cup, adding too much sugar. "You were yelling again last night." Mike's hands stilled momentarily. "Sorry about that. Was it the desert dream?" He nodded, not looking up. They had a system. Desert dreams, city dreams, water dreams, different theaters, different horrors coded for a child's ears. "Mom would have made you talk about it." Sophia said, her voice carrying that familiar mix of wisdom and loss that broke his heart. "Your mom was smarter than both of us." He placed a plate of eggs before her. "Bus comes in 20. You're working late again." "Reynolds Auto doesn't run itself, kiddo." The small repair shop on the edge of town wasn't glamorous, but engines made sense. They had problems. You could diagnose, parts you could replace. They didn't wake up screaming or miss their mothers. Mike watched as Sophia board the school bus before driving to the shop. The Reynolds Auto sign needed repainting, the R, fading like so much else. Inside, the familiar smell of oil and metal greeted him. His domain now so different from desert heat and gunfire. The morning passed in a rhythm of wrenches and diagnostic computers. Mike worked steadily through a transmission rebuild, losing himself in the mechanical puzzle. No decisions where lives hung in the balance. No teammates to protect. Just metal and gears and physics. During lunch, he scrolled through Sophia's school portal on his phone, checking grades and upcoming assignments. Single parenthood was its own kind of tactical challenge. Carolyn had been the organizer, the planner. He was learning, but the gaps she left seemed impossible to fill. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Staying late for math help. Home by 5:30. Don't forget taco night." He smiled slightly, typing back a simple, "Roger that." Military speak had become their private language. His way of keeping that part of himself alive while burying the darker elements. The afternoon brought Mr. Jenkins and his troublesome Cadillac. The elderly veteran always lingered, sensing perhaps a kindred spirit. "You serve, son?" Jenkins asked, watching Mike work. "Yes, sir." "Where?" "Here and there." Jenkins nodded, understanding the non-answer. "Thought so. Got the look. My grandson's over in Syria now. Says it's nothing like my war." "Never is, sir." They shared a moment of silence, the unspoken brotherhood of men who'd worn the uniform. "You got people, Reynolds?" Jenkins asked suddenly. Mike thought of Sophia alone at school. "Got my daughter." "Good, that's good." Jenkins nodded firmly. A man needs someone to come home to. As closing time approached, Mike wiped grease from his hands, the physical exhaustion a welcome counterpoint to the mental fatigue of keeping the past at bay. He counted the day's earnings, enough to cover bills and maybe put a little towards Sophia's college fund. Not the life he'd imagined, but one he'd built carefully from the wreckage of what came before. The shop phone rang as he was locking up. Sophia's math teacher checking if he knew she'd missed the extra help session. Mike's world tilted slightly on its axis. She'd never lied to him before. He called her cell, straight to voicemail. The training kicked in automatically. Threat assessment, contingency planning, worst-case scenarios. He forced himself to breathe. There would be a simple explanation. Kids made mistakes. She'd lost track of time with friends, but the cold weight in his stomach said otherwise. The instinct that had kept him alive through 3 tours was screaming now. Something was wrong. Mike secured the shop and under a minute muscle memory taking over as adrenaline flooded his system. He moved to his truck. He's automatically scanning the parking lot, the street, the roof lines. Old habits, necessary habits. The truck's engine rumbled to life as Mike tried Sophia's phone again. Still nothing. He pulled up the tracking app they'd agreed upon, a compromise between her privacy and his paranoia. The blue dot pulsed reassuringly. Oakdale Mall, just 3 blocks from school. Relief washed over him, followed immediately by parental irritation. He was halfway there when he heard it. A scream, high, terrified, unmistakably a child's, cut through the evening air from the alley behind the strip of stores at Pinecrest Plaza. Not Sophia's voice, but the sound triggered something primal in him nonetheless. Mike was out of the truck before conscious thought caught up, moving toward danger instead of away. The instinct of a protector, not a civilian. The weight of his concealed Glock pressed against his lower back, legal and loaded. The alley stretched, dark between buildings, illuminated only by a single flickering light. 2 figures struggled near a black van with tinted windows. A man in dark clothing, face obscured by a ski mask. A small girl, maybe 8 or 9, golden hair, catching the dim light as she fought with surprising ferocity. "Let me go!" she screamed, kicking at her captor's shins. The man raised his hand to strike her. "Hey!" Mike's voice carried the full command presence of a Delta Force team leader. Authoritative, unquestionable. The kidnapper's head snapped up, momentarily frozen. That crucial second of hesitation Mike had counted on. The man shoved the girl toward the van's open door, reaching inside his jacket. Mike closed the distance in 3 long strides, driving his shoulder into the kidnapper's midsection with controlled violence. Not maximum force. He needed answers, not a corpse. The impact drove the air from the man's lungs, sending both of them crashing against the van's side panel. Mike felt the hard outline of body armor beneath the jacket. Not an amateur. The girl scrambled away as the van's engine roared to life. The kidnapper twisted, revealing a tactical knife already in motion toward Mike's ribs. Mike trapped the wrist, applied precise pressure to the radial nerve, and the knife clattered to the pavement. His counterstrike was textbook. Heel of the palm to the solar plexus knee, to the groin, right cross to the jaw. The man dropped unconscious before he hit the ground. The van's tires squealed as it pulled away, driver unseen behind tinted glass. Mike memorized what he could. No plates, aftermarket, bumper, small dent on the rear quarter panel. The van disappeared around the corner as Mike turned to find the girl. She stood pressed against the brick wall, eyes wide but remarkably steady for a child who'd just escaped abduction. Her pink coat was torn at the shoulder, and a small teddy bear lay forgotten on the dirty pavement. Mike knelt slowly, maintaining distance, making himself smaller. Techniques he'd used with frightened children in war zones. "You're safe now," he said, voice deliberately gentle. "My name is Mike. I'm going to help you." The girl studied him with unsettling intensity, her blue eyes taking in his face, his posture, the unconscious man nearby. "You hit him like my bodyguards train," she said finally, her vocabulary surprisingly adult. "Are you military?" "Used to be." Mike glanced at the kidnapper, who was beginning to stir. "We need to call the police. Do you know who that man is?" She shook her head, then hesitated. "There were 2. The driver. He was watching our house for days." Mike's tactical assessment upgraded immediately. Not random, targeted, professional. "What's your name?" he asked, already pulling zip ties from his back pocket. Standard equipment for a man who couldn't fully leave his training behind. "Lily," she said, watching as Mike secured the kidnapper's hands. "Lily Morgan." Mike's hands stilled for a fraction of a second. Morgan. Common enough name, but the prickle at the back of his neck wasn't coincidence. "Lily, I need to check if you're hurt." He kept his voice calm, professional, moving slowly as he assessed her for injuries using the same systematic approach he'd used on wounded teammates. "Does anything hurt? Did they give you anything to drink or eat?" She shook her head, surprisingly composed. "I bit him when he grabbed me," she said with a hint of pride. "Mom says always bite and scream." "Your mom is smart." Mike retrieved the teddy bear, dusting it off before offering it to her. "Who is your mom, Lily?" The girl clutched the bear to her chest, chin lifting slightly. "Victoria Morgan. She runs Nexus Technologies." The name hit Mike like a physical blow. Victoria Morgan, the medic from Fallujah. The green eyes, the steady hands. 20 years and a lifetime ago. Sirens wailed in the distance as Mike processed this impossible coincidence. The kidnapper groaned, eyes fluttering behind the ski mask. Mike's focus sharpened. "Lily, the police are coming. I need you to stand over there." He gestured to the alley entrance. "Where it's light, I'm going to ask this man some questions." She nodded solemnly and moved away, understanding in her eyes that belied her years. Mike turned to the kidnapper, removing the ski mask to reveal a nondescript face, the kind designed to blend into crowds and disappear from memories. He gripped the man's jaw, applying precise pressure to pain points. "Who sent you?" Mike kept his voice low, eyes cold. "Who was the girl to you?" The man's eyes widened, fear replacing grogginess. "Just a job, man." "I don't know." Mike increased the pressure. "Wrong answer. Professional equipment, body armor coordinated team. This wasn't random." "Who sent you?" "I never got a name," the man gasped. "Handler called himself Corvus. Said the girl was leverage. Something about a project. Phoenix, I swear that's all I know." Project Phoenix. The name meant nothing to Mike, but the fear in the man's eyes was genuine. He released his grip as police cruisers pulled into the alley lights, painting the walls red and blue. What followed was familiar bureaucracy, statements, identification questions. Mike answered carefully. Sophia called, frantic about her own tracking app, alerting her to his location amid police chatter. He reassured her, half his attention on Lily, as a female officer wrapped her in a shock blanket. Then everything shifted again. Two black SUVs entered the alley and four men in suits with unmistakable government bearing approached. The local police deferred immediately. The lead agent, gray-haired with a face carved from granite, assessed Mike with a professional's eye. "Mr. Reynolds," he said, not a question. "Agent Blackwood, Homeland Security. We need to debrief you privately." Mike felt the familiar weight of classified operations settling back onto his shoulders. "My daughter is waiting for me." "We have an agent with her now," Blackwood replied, confirming Mike's suspicion that they'd been monitoring his call. "She's safe." Mike's jaw tightened. "If anything happens to her..." "Nothing will." Blackwood's tone softened marginally. "This is National Security, Reynolds, and it involves people you used to know." The debriefing took place in a nondescript room at the local federal building. Mike answered their questions with the precise economy of words he'd learned in countless similar rooms. Yes, it appeared professional. No, he hadn't recognized the kidnapper. Yes, the girl had mentioned Project Phoenix. At that, the agents exchanged glances. "You have no prior knowledge of this project," Blackwood pressed. "None." Mike leaned forward. "Now tell me why Homeland Security is interested in a kidnapping attempt on the daughter of a tech CEO. Blackwood studied him for a long moment. "Victoria Morgan isn't just a tech CEO. Her company does classified work for the government, work that certain parties would very much like to access. Through her daughter." "Precisely." "And me?" Mike asked the question that had been nagging since the SUVs arrived. "Why the interest in a mechanic who happened to be in the right place?" Blackwood smiled thinly. "A mechanic with Delta Force training who once served with Victoria Morgan in Fallujah. That's not coincidence, Reynolds. That's providence." By the time Mike was released, dawn was breaking over Riverdale. An agent drove him home, where he found Sophia asleep on the couch, watched over by a female agent who nodded respectfully before departing. Mike stood in his small living room, the familiar surroundings suddenly strange. The ordinary life he'd built felt like a facade, now paper-thin and fragile. He checked his phone. 3 missed calls from unknown numbers. He didn't need to guess who was trying to reach him. Victoria Morgan, after 20 years. He gently covered Sophia with a blanket, brushing her hair back from her forehead. She stirred slightly, but didn't wake. "I'm sorry, kiddo," he whispered. "Looks like our quiet life just got complicated." The morning sun cast long shadows across Mike's front porch as he sat cleaning his Glock. The familiar ritual, disassemble, clean oil, reassemble, calmed his mind after a sleepless night. Sophia remained inside, exhausted from the previous night's disruption. Her questions temporarily held at bay with promises of full explanations later. Mike had just locked the firing pin back into place when the black SUV appeared at the end of his street. Not government issue like last night's vehicles. This one was higher end with custom wheels and subtle armor modifications visible only to a trained eye. It stopped precisely in front of his house. The rear door opened and Victoria Morgan stepped out. 20 years had transformed the battlefield medic into something else entirely. Her dark hair was shorter now, styled expensively, around a face that had matured from pretty to striking. The desert fatigues replaced by a tailored charcoal suit that spoke of boardrooms and power. But the green eyes remained unchanged, alert, intelligent, assessing. Mike continued reassembling his weapon, an unconscious message. I'm still who I was. Victoria approached alone, though Mike noted the driver remained vigilant, hand positioned for quick access to what was undoubtedly a concealed weapon. She stopped at the bottom of the porch steps, looking up at him. Hello, Mike. Her voice was lower than he remembered, controlled in a way that suggested careful modulation of every aspect of her public persona. Victoria. He slid the magazine into place with a definitive click. You look different without the blood on your hands. A slight tightening around her eyes, the only indication his words had landed. May I come up? He gestured to the empty chair beside him. She ascended the steps with measured grace, settling into the chair without breaking eye contact. I understand you met my daughter. I did. Mike set the gun aside. She handled herself well, trained responses, good situational awareness, not typical for a child her age. Lily isn't typical. Pride and worry mingled in her voice. She's grown up with unique security concerns. Because of Project Phoenix, Victoria's composure slipped momentarily, surprise quickly masked. How do you... Your kidnapper mentioned it before Homeland Security took over. Care to tell me what it is and why someone would kidnap a child over it? She looked away, studying the quiet suburban street with its illusion of safety. It's complicated. Uncomplicated, a child is nearly taken. My daughter is inside that house. I need to know what we're dealing with. Victoria's gaze returned to him, decision made. Project Phoenix is an artificial intelligence system designed for autonomous weapons, control, and defensive countermeasures. My company developed it under classified contract. You built Skynet, Mike said flatly. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Nothing so dramatic. Phoenix isn't sentient. It's a sophisticated decision-making system with ethical constraints and human oversight requirements hardwired into its core architecture. But in the wrong hands, it could bypass those constraints. She nodded. Exactly. 3 weeks ago, we discovered evidence of an organized attempt to steal Phoenix's source code. 2 of my senior developers disappeared. Security protocols were activated. Lily and I were supposed to transfer to a secure facility, but she slipped away. She's 9 and brilliant and hates disruption to her routine. Victoria's professional facade cracked slightly, revealing the worried mother beneath. We were at the mall. I turned around and she was gone. Then I got the call from Agent Blackwood that you'd intervened. Mike leaned forward. This is one hell of a coincidence, Victoria. You, me, Fallujah. No coincidence. She reached into her jacket and removed a slim file folder. When Blackwood told me your name, I had them pull everything. You left the service with honors in 2012. Lost your wife to cancer in 2021. Opened Reynolds Auto that same year. Live quietly, pay your taxes, raise your daughter. She paused. And occasionally wake your neighbors with screams at 3 a.m. Mike's jaw tightened. You've been thorough. I need to be. She placed the folder on the table between them. There's something else you should know. The man behind this, the one codenamed Corvus who sent those kidnappers. We have strong reason to believe it's Ethan Harris. The name landed like a physical blow. Ethan Harris. The cold eyes in Fallujah. The whispered rumors of off-book operations. The dishonorable discharge that no one discussed. Harris went mercenary after the service, Mike said, memory surfacing. Private military contractor. Wet work specialist. Victoria nodded. Until 3 years ago when he disappeared completely. Resurfaced last month working for an organization we can't identify. They want Phoenix Mike, and they're willing to use my daughter to get it. So what do you want from me? A trip down memory lane while Homeland handles your security. I want you. The directness of her statement caught him off guard. As Lily's personal security detail. Mike stared at her. I'm a mechanic now. You're a Delta Force operator who happened to become a mechanic. She opened the folder revealing documents bearing government seals. Homeland is providing overall security for the project, but I need someone I trust to protect my daughter. Someone Ethan knows. Someone who stopped him once before. Mike's mind flashed to their final encounter in Kabul. The mission gone wrong, the choices made, the report he'd filed that ended Harris's military career. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. Victoria's voice softened. I've never forgotten what you did in Fallujah, Mike. How you risked everything for strangers. I've followed your career from a distance. I know what kind of man you are. I'm a father now. I have responsibilities. He gestured toward the house where Sophia slept. And I'm offering to protect both our children. Victoria pulled another document from the folder, a temporary guardianship form with Lily's name and his own. 72 hours, Mike, just until we can complete transfer to the secure facility in Colorado. Full protection for Sophia as well. Then you go back to your life. The front door creaked open behind them. Mike turned to find Lily standing there, teddy bear clutched to her chest, observing them with those unnervingly perceptive eyes. Mom, her voice was small but steady. Is he going to help us? Victoria extended her hand toward her daughter, who crossed to stand beside her. The resemblance was striking, the same determined set of the jaw, the same direct gaze. That's what we're discussing, sweetheart. Lily looked at Mike's assessment beyond her years and her expression. You weren't scared last night, even when the bad man had a knife. I was scared, Mike corrected gently, but being scared doesn't mean you can't act. She nodded as if he'd confirmed something important. That's what Mom says too. The screen door opened wider, and Sophia stepped out, sleep-rumpled and confused. Dad, what's going on? 4 lives intersecting, 2 fathers, 2 daughters, choices with consequences that would ripple far beyond this quiet porch. Mike looked at Victoria. 72 hours, then we're done. She nodded once, relief visible only in the slight loosening of her shoulders. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Mike stood gathering the file. First, we need to talk about what happens when Harris comes back. Because he will. As if summoned by his name, Mike's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered with caution, already knowing. Reynolds. The voice was exactly as he remembered. Cold, amused, dangerous. Should have minded your own business, old friend. Now you're in my way. Mike met Victoria's eyes as she recognized the voice on the line. Hello, Ethan. It's been a while. A soft laugh. Not long enough. I see Victoria found you. Convenient. What do you want, Harris? The same thing I've always wanted, to finish what we started. The line went quiet for a beat. The girl was just business. But you're personal. You, Victoria, the project, all threads of the same knot, and I'm going to enjoy untangling it. The call ended abruptly. Mike lowered the phone, the weight of the past settling firmly on his shoulders. 72 hours just got complicated, he said to Victoria. Behind them, Sophia and Lily watched with mirrored expressions of confusion and fear. The quiet life Mike had built was already dissolving, replaced by something he thought he'd left behind forever. The mission was back, and so was the man who had once been. The kitchen felt too small for the weight of the conversation taking place around the worn oak table. Mike had sent the girls upstairs, Sophia showing Lily her room with the reluctant hospitality of a child whose world was shifting beneath her feet. Now he sat across from Victoria, a cup of coffee cooling between them, as he examined the contents of the folder she'd brought. Project Phoenix documentation, heavily redacted but enough to send a chill down his spine. Artificial intelligence designed to make kill decisions faster than human reflexes, designed to anticipate threats, coordinate defensive systems, and engage hostiles with surgical precision. The schematics showed integration capabilities with everything from missile defense networks to urban surveillance systems. This shouldn't exist, Mike said, finally closing the folder. The ethical implications alone are precisely why I insisted on building the fail-safes, Victoria cut in. Phoenix has triple redundant human authorization protocols. It cannot launch offensive measures without explicit approval from 3 separate human operators. Unless someone removes those fail-safes, Mike's eyes narrowed, which is what Harris wants. Victoria nodded, the professional mask slipping to reveal genuine concern. The full system is isolated in our secure facility, but Harris doesn't need the whole system. He just needs the authentication code stored in the biometric implant. Implant, Mike's tactical assessment sharpened. Victoria unconsciously touched the back of her neck. Subcutaneous chip, military-grade encryption. It contains half the master codes needed to access Phoenix's core systems. And the other half, her gaze flicked toward the ceiling, toward where Lily was. Mike's blood went cold. You put an implant in your daughter. Not my choice. Victoria's voice was tight with old anger. Project Oversight Committee insisted on split authentication. No single point of failure. They wouldn't let me be both carriers. I fought it, but... She looked away. Sometimes even CEOs answer to higher authorities. Mike's jaw clenched as the full picture emerged. So Harris needs both of you. Yes, and he nearly had Lily. Her eyes met his, green and fierce. I won't let that happen again. The phone on the table rang, a secure line Victoria had brought. She answered, listened briefly, then handed it to Mike. Agent Blackwood for you. Mike took the phone. Reynolds? We've identified the kidnapper. Blackwood's voice was clipped professional. Former Special Operations dishonorable discharge. Worked with Harris on 3 confirmed operations. He's talking but doesn't know much. Harris compartmentalizes. Smart, Mike acknowledged. What's your security plan? Convoy to Colorado facility departs at Elk Hundred tomorrow. We're setting up a perimeter around your location now. 4 agents rotating shifts. Morgan's private security will handle close protection. Mike moved to the window, subtly checking sightlines. Harris won't come at us directly, not his style. Agreed, but we have to assume he's monitoring all channels. Communications blackout starts now. I'll see you at 0600. The line went dead. Mike handed the phone back to Victoria. I need to call someone, he said. When she raised an eyebrow, he added, someone I trust, someone who knows Harris. Victoria hesitated, then nodded. Mike stepped onto the back porch, dialing a number he hadn't used in years. It rang twice. Martinez Plumbing, answered a gruff voice. Jack, it's Reynolds. A pause. Mike, Jesus, man, what's wrong? Jack Martinez, former Delta, the only man from the old unit Mike still considered a friend, the only one who'd visited after Caroline died. Ethan Harris is back, and he's hunting. The silence on the other end was heavy with understanding. Where are you, bum? Home with complications. I can be there in 4 hours. Mike felt a knot of tension ease slightly. Bring the kit. Always do, brother. Inside, he found Victoria examining the house's entry points with a professional's eye. 2 ground floor entrances, 6 windows, second-story access via the oak tree near your daughter's room, she noted. Defensible, but not ideal. It's a home, not a fortress, Mike replied, opening a locked cabinet in the hallway. Inside lay the remnants of his former life. Tactical gear, secure communication devices, a gun safe. We're leaving before dawn, but we need to prepare in case Harris moves tonight. He entered the combination to the safe, removing a Sig Sauer P226 and a Remington 870 shotgun. Victoria watched without comment as he checked each weapon methodically. I've got a friend coming. Former teammate. We'll need his help. She nodded. I should tell you something else about Phoenix, something not in the file. Mike paused, looking up. It's evolving. Her voice dropped. The system is learning at an exponential rate. The ethical constraints are holding, but... She hesitated. If someone like Harris removed them and let Phoenix operate autonomously, the potential damage would be incalculable. A rogue AI weapon system. Worse, a system that could infiltrate nuclear launch facilities, drone networks, power grids. The fear in her voice was genuine. This isn't just about national security, Mike. It's about preventing something that could fundamentally alter warfare forever. Footsteps on the stairs interrupted them. Sophia appeared, her expression guarded. Dad, Lily's asking when she can go home. She glanced between the adults, eyes widening at the weapons on the table. What's happening? Mike set the shotgun down and crossed to his daughter, kneeling to meet her eyes. No more half-truths, no more shields. Something dangerous is happening, Soph. Ms. Morgan and Lily need our help, and we're going to give it to them. But it means we have to leave home for a few days. He held her gaze, respecting her enough to show the seriousness of the situation. Remember how we talked about my work before, the things I used to do? She nodded solemnly. The protecting things. Yes, I need to do that again just for a little while. Sophia looked past him to Victoria. Is someone trying to hurt you and Lily? Victoria approached carefully. Yes, someone dangerous. Your father is very good at stopping dangerous people. Sophia's chin lifted slightly, a gesture so like her mother that it made Mike's chest ache. My dad was a hero. Mom always said so. She was right, Victoria said softly. Sophia considered this, then nodded decisively. I'll tell Lily we're going on a trip. She started up the stairs, then paused, looking back at Mike. Are you going to wear your uniform again? The innocent question landed like a physical blow. No, sweetheart, but I'll still be me. After she disappeared upstairs, Victoria moved to stand beside him. She's strong, like you. Like her mother, Mike corrected, returning to the weapons. We need to pack, essentials only, and I need to show you how to use these. Victoria reached for the P226 with unexpected familiarity, checking the chamber and magazine with practice movements. At Mike's surprised look, she offered a tight smile. I stopped being just a medic a long time ago, Reynolds. For the first time since she'd appeared on his porch, Mike saw a flash of the woman from Fallujah, determined, competent, unafraid of the hard necessities of survival. As night fell, they prepared in silent efficiency. Mike moved through his home, securing windows, creating improvised alarms using fishing line and metal cans. Victoria packed go bags with clothes, medications, emergency supplies. The girls were briefed, simplified explanations, clear instructions, emergency protocols. Mike's phone buzzed with a text from Jack 20 minutes out. The night deepened. The house grew quiet except for the occasional creak of the old structure settling. Mike sat in the darkened living room, cig resting on his thigh, watching the street through a narrow gap in the curtains. Victoria entered silently, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Lily's finally asleep, she said, offering him a mug. Your daughter is good with her. Patient. Mike accepted the coffee. Sophia had to grow up fast after Caroline died. Victoria settled into the chair opposite her, face half hidden in shadow. I'm sorry about your wife. That couldn't have been easy. Nothing about death is easy. He sipped the coffee, eyes never leaving the window. At least in war, there's an enemy you can fight. Cancer just takes. They sat in silence for a moment, the shared understanding of loss building a bridge between them. Fallujah seems like another lifetime, Victoria said finally. It was. Mike shifted, the old bullet wound in his thigh aching with the memory. You went from battlefield medicine to tech CEO. Quite a journey. She smiled faintly. The skills translate better than you'd think. Crisis management, quick decisions under pressure, knowing which problems need solving first. In Phoenix, how does creating an AI weapon system fit into healing? Her smile faded. The world changed, Mike. After what I saw in Iraq and Afghanistan, I wanted to build something that could protect without needless sacrifice. A system that could make the hard choices without the psychological toll. Machines making life or death decisions. Mike shook his head. That never ends well in the movies. This isn't science fiction. It's carefully designed technology with human oversight. She leaned forward. Phoenix could save countless lives, both civilian and military. Imagine a system that could distinguish between combatants and non-combatants with 99.8% accuracy. That could intercept incoming missiles without risking pilot lives. That could neutralize threats before they materialize. Or imagine it in the hands of someone like Harris, Mike countered. Someone who sees collateral damage as an acceptable cost. Before she could respond, headlights swept across the window as a vehicle pulled up outside. Mike tensed, hand tightening on the cig. That's Martinez, he said, recognizing the distinctive engine sound of Jack's truck. Stay here. Mike moved to the front door, keeping to the shadows. He watched as Jack emerged from the vehicle, still built like the linebacker he had once been, though with more gray in his beard now. He carried a duffel bag that Mike knew contained tactical equipment no civilian should possess. Mike opened the door just enough to let his old friend slip inside, then secured it behind him. Good to see you, brother, Jack said, clasping Mike's hand firmly. His eyes took in the weapons, the tactical preparations, and Victoria standing in the living room doorway. "So, Harris, full sit rep? Project Phoenix," Mike began, leading him into the kitchen. "Classified AI weapon system. Harris wants it, needs access codes implanted in Victoria and her daughter." Jack whistled low. "Subcutaneous implants. That's some serious spy movie shit." "It gets worse. Harris has resources, professional team, government connections. Always did have friends in dark places." Jack unzipped the duffel, revealing body armor, comms equipment, and additional weapons. "Transport plan. Convoy to Colorado facility. Leaves 0600. Jack's expression darkened. "Convoys are vulnerable. Better to split up travel separately." Victoria stepped forward. "The convoy has presidential-level security protocols. 6 vehicles, counter-surveillance measures, air support." "And Harris knows all about it, I guarantee it," Jack replied. "Man spent years studying how to hit protected targets." Mike nodded slowly. "Jack's right. Harris will be expecting the convoy." He turned to Victoria. "We need an alternative. Somewhere secure we can hold position until we can arrange private transport to Colorado." Victoria considered this. "I have a property, mountain lodge in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Off-grid, minimal digital footprint." "How many people know about it?" Jack asked. "Just my security chief. I purchased it through a shell corporation for exactly this type of situation." Mike and Jack exchanged glances, the silent communication of men who'd operated together in the field. "It could work," Mike acknowledged, "but we need to make it look like we're still taking the convoy. Give Harris the expected target." Jack smiled grimly. "Decoy operation, like Belgrade." "Exactly like Belgrade." Mike turned to Victoria. "We need to move soon, before the official protection detail arrives. They'll insist on protocol." Victoria checked her watch. 3 hours until Blackwood's team expects us ready for transport. Then we have 2 hours to disappear." Mike looked toward the stairs. "We need to wake the girls." As they prepared to move, Mike felt the familiar calm settling over him, the focused clarity that came with operational planning. The civilian facade was falling away, revealing the soldier beneath. For the first time in years, the persistent background noise of peacetime anxiety quieted. This he knew how to do. This made sense. Protect the principal, neutralize the threat, complete the mission. But as he climbed the stairs to wake his sleeping daughter, the weight of what he was drawing her into settled heavily on his shoulders. The life he'd built to protect her was dissolving, replaced by the very dangers he'd left the service to escape. He could only hope he hadn't made a terrible mistake. The pre-dawn darkness shrouded the caravan of 3 vehicles as they slipped away from Mike's neighborhood. Jack led in his nondescript pickup truck, outfitted with reinforced panels and run-flat tires, modifications invisible to casual observation. Mike followed in his own truck, Victoria beside him, both girls asleep in the back seat beneath a blanket. The security chief Victoria trusted, a stern-faced woman named Harper, brought up the rear in an armored SUV. They'd left behind carefully staged evidence of their continued presence. Lights on timers, a recording of voices that would play periodically, and a digital trail suggesting preparations for the official convoy. By the time Blackwood realized they'd gone off protocol, they would be halfway to the Blue Ridge Mountains. The highway stretched empty before them as they headed south, then east. Mike drove with mechanical precision, constantly scanning for tails, unusual patterns, anything out of place. Victoria sat rigid beside him, one hand resting on the secure phone in her lap. "Blackwood will be furious," she said, finally breaking the tense silence. "Better furious than attending our funerals." Mike checked the rear-view mirror for the 100th time. Harris would have hit that convoy hard. Probably already has the route map, choke points identified. "You're that certain?" "I trained with him for 5 years. I know how he thinks." Mike glanced at the sleeping girls. "He targets what you value most, makes it personal. That's why he went for Lily first." Victoria's face hardened. "I've spent 9 years protecting her from the consequences of my work, building walls, security systems, protocols, and it still wasn't enough." "No security is perfect, especially against someone who knows what they're looking for." Mike's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "What happened between you and Harris after Fallujah?" She looked out the window at the passing darkness. "We crossed paths again in 2008, Kandahar province. I was running a mobile surgical unit. He was I don't know what he was doing officially. Black Ops, probably. He came through our unit with a team, all of them injured in some operation they wouldn't discuss. And, and he remembered me from Fallujah, started visiting after his team was patched up, asking questions about my work, my background in AI research before I joined up. She shook her head. I was naive, thought he was interested in me, didn't realize he was interested in what I could build for him. Mike's jaw tightened. That sounds like Harris. When I realized what he wanted, autonomous targeting systems with no ethical constraints, I shut it down. Reported my concerns up the chain. Next day, our unit was hit by insurgents. 3 of my staff killed. Her voice remained steady, but her hands clenched in her lap. No proof it was him, but the timing. Harris never believed in coincidences. The secure phone buzzed. Darom. Staskikam Ahamezd. Victoria answered, listened briefly, then cursed under her breath. Blackwood, Mike asked. She nodded. Our absence has been discovered. He's mobilizing search teams. Are they tracking the phone? No, this line is secure, but they'll check traffic cameras, toll records. She looked at him. We need to get off the main highways. Mike pressed the transmit button on the comms unit connecting their 3 vehicles. Jack, we need to alter course. Take the next exit. Secondary roads from here on. Roger that, came the crackled response. Harper, stay close. Defensive formation Delta. The small convoy veered onto the exit ramp, transitioning from interstate to state highway, then to progressively smaller county roads. The terrain changed from flat farmland to rolling hills as they approached the mountains of Western Virginia. The sun crested the horizon, painting the sky in crimson and gold. In the back seat, Sophia stirred, blinking sleepily. Dad, where are we? On our way to a safe place, kiddo. Go back to sleep if you can. Instead, she sat up, careful not to disturb Lily. Are the bad people still after us? Mike met her eyes in the rearview mirror. No point in lying. Yes, but we're being very careful. She nodded, accepting this with the resilience that both broke his heart and made him fiercely proud. 9 years old and already understanding that the world held dangers most adults preferred to ignore. Victoria turned in her seat. Are you hungry, Sophia? I have some granola bars in my bag. Yes, please. Sophia took the offered snack. Miss Victoria, why do the bad people want Lily? Victoria hesitated, glancing at Mike. Because they want something her mom created, Mike answered, keeping it simple but honest. Something dangerous that they shouldn't have. Like a weapon, Sophia asked. Something like that, Victoria confirmed. Very powerful technology that could hurt a lot of people if it's used wrong. Sophia considered this, chewing thoughtfully. My mom said Dad used to stop bad people from getting dangerous things. Is that what he's doing now? Yes, Victoria said softly. That's exactly what he's doing. The conversation halted as Jack's voice came urgently through the comm. Mike, we've got company. Black SUV half a mile back, matching our turns for the last 10 minutes. Mike's senses sharpened. Could be coincidence. Tinted windows, aftermarket bumper, 2 occupants visible. The description matched the van from the kidnapping attempt. Assume hostile. Harper fall back to challenge position. Jack maintain lead. I'm going to test them. Mike took the next right turn abruptly, watching in the mirror. The SUV followed. Confirm pursuit, he said tightly. Everyone's secure. Victoria checked her seatbelt, then reached back to ensure both girls were properly restrained. Lily had woken now, eyes wide but silent. Secure, Victoria confirmed. Mike increased speed, the truck's engine growling as they accelerated down the narrow country road. The SUV kept pace, closing the distance. Harper ready for intercept, Mike instructed. Jack, find us an advantage point. Through the rear-view mirror, Mike watched as Harper's vehicle dropped back, allowing the pursuing SUV to pass, then accelerated to close in from behind. Classic pincer maneuver. Dad, Sophia's voice was steady despite the fear evident in her face. Are we going to crash? No, sweetheart, but hold on tight. Things might get bumpy. The radio crackled. Half-mile ahead, there's a logging road on the left, Jack reported. Narrow but passable. Could lose them in the trees. Roger that, Mike glanced at Victoria. When I say down, get the girls on the floor and cover them. She nodded, already unholstering her weapon. The pursuing SUV suddenly accelerated, ramming Harper's vehicle from behind. The impact sent her SUV fishtailing. "Harper's hit," Jack shouted through the comm. "Stay on course," Mike ordered. "Harper status." "Operational, sir," came her clipped response. "But they're armed, spotted rifles when they pulled alongside." The logging road appeared ahead, little more than a dirt track cutting through dense forest. Mike took the turn hard, the truck bouncing violently as it left the pavement. Behind them, gunfire erupted. Harper exchanging shots with their pursuers. "Down!" Mike shouted. Victoria vaulted between the seats, covering both girls with her body on the floor of the cab. Mike kept the truck at maximum possible speed on the uneven terrain, branches scraping against the windows as the road narrowed. Jack's voice came through, tight with tension. "Mike, there's a stream crossing ahead. Looks shallow enough to ford." "Copy that." Mike checked the mirror. The pursuing SUV had followed them onto the logging road, but Harper was right behind them, forcing them to divide attention. "Harper, fall back. Defensive position at the stream." The road descended sharply toward a shallow creek bed. Mike slowed just enough to prevent the truck from bottoming out as they splashed across. On the other side, he pulled the vehicle sideways, creating a partial barricade, and cut the engine. "Stay down," he ordered, grabbing his rifle from behind the seat. Not a sound. He slipped from the truck, moving to cover behind a large oak tree. Jack had positioned his vehicle similarly on the other side of the crossing. Between them, they had overlapping fields of fire covering the approach. The pursuing SUV appeared at the top of the slope, moving cautiously now. Two men visible inside, scanning the crossing area. They hadn't spotted the defensive position yet. Mike steadied his breathing, settling into the familiar mindset of the sniper. Time slowed. Sensory input sharpened. The distance, the wind, the target, all calculated with mechanical precision. The SUV began its descent toward the stream. Mike took aim at the front tire, waiting for the perfect moment when the vehicle would be most vulnerable in the crossing. The shot cracked through the forest silence. The tire blew, sending the SUV lurching to one side. Before the occupants could react, Jack fired, taking out the second front tire. The vehicle slammed to a stop, half submerged in the stream. "Cover," Mike commanded into his comm. Both men opened sustained fire on the disabled SUV, not aiming to kill, but to pin the occupants inside. Harper appeared on the ridge behind, adding her fire to the barrage. Inside the SUV, the men ducked low, returning sporadic fire, but unable to maneuver or advance. They were trapped. "Victoria," Mike called. "Secure phone, call Blackwood. We need extraction and prisoner transport." For 10 tense minutes, they maintained the standoff until the sound of helicopter rotors broke through the forest canopy. A tactical team fast roped down, securing the area, and the two gunmen with military efficiency. Agent Blackwood emerged from the tree line, face set in a mask of controlled fury. "Reynolds," he acknowledged coldly, "care to explain why you abandoned protocol and endangered a national security asset?" Mike lowered his weapon slowly. "Because your protocol would have gotten us all killed." "You don't know that?" "I know Harris." Mike gestured to the captured gunman being loaded into the helicopter. "And I was right. He had people waiting. These are just the ones who found us." Blackwood's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Reluctant acknowledgement. "The girls?" he asked. "Safe, in my truck." Mike nodded toward the creek. "We need to move quickly. This location is compromised." "My team has secured a perimeter. Medevac is inbound for anyone injured." Blackwood glanced at the vehicles. "We'll transport all of you to the nearest secure facility." Mike shook his head. "No, we stick to our original plan, the Blue Ridge location." "That's not protocol." "Protocol is what nearly got us killed," Victoria interrupted, approaching with both girls held close to her sides. "Agent Blackwood, I respect your authority, but I'm invoking executive oversight on Project Phoenix. We proceed to my secure facility with your support, but under my direction." The two stared at each other for a long moment, a silent battle of wills between government authority and the private sector power that funded it. Finally, Blackwood nodded tersely. "My team will provide escort, but I want a full briefing on arrival." As the tactical team secured the area, Mike checked on Sophia and Lily. Both girls were frightened, but holding together with remarkable composure. "You both did great," he told them, kneeling to eye level. "Staying quiet and following instructions." "That's exactly right." Sophia managed a wobbly smile. "Just like you taught me, Dad." Lily studied the scene around them with the same unnerving intensity Mike had noticed before. Those men work for the same person who tried to take me at the mall. She stated, not a question. Yes, Mike confirmed, but they failed again, and they'll keep failing. Lily's eyes met his with adult solemnity. Because of you. The simple faith in her voice hit Mike harder than he expected. He glanced up at Victoria, who watched them with an unreadable expression. Because all of us are working together, he corrected gently. Now let's get back on the road. We still have a long way to go. As they resumed their journey now with government escort, Mike felt the familiar weight of command settling back onto his shoulders. The years of civilian life fell away like a discarded disguise, revealing the operator beneath. Focused, tactical, certain. For the first time since leaving the service, the persistent background noise of peacetime anxiety quieted. The path forward was clear. The mission defined: protect Victoria and Lily, neutralize Harris, secure Project Phoenix. This he knew how to do. This made sense, but as he glanced at Sophia in the rearview mirror, his daughter, who had never seen this version of her father before, a different kind of uncertainty gnawed at him. What would she think of the man emerging from behind the mask of normalcy he had worn for so long? Would she recognize him when this was over? Would he recognize himself? The mountains rose before them, ancient and indifferent to human concerns. Somewhere in those peaks lay temporary safety. Beyond that, Colorado and Project Phoenix awaited. And somewhere watching planning, Harris moved his next pieces into position. The game had only just begun. The mountain lodge materialized through the evening mist like something from another era. A sprawling structure of stone and timber nestled against the mountainside, surrounded by ancient pines. No visible neighbors, no power lines, only a narrow access road and the wilderness beyond. Defensible, Jack murmured appreciatively as their convoy approached. Limited avenues of approach. Good sightlines. Victoria nodded. That was the point. I purchased it 3 years ago through a shell corporation. Renovated with security in mind. Solar power satellite communications, rainwater collection system. Preparing for war, Mike asked quietly. Preparing for exactly this scenario. Her gaze was steady. When you build something like Phoenix, you understand the risks. The vehicles pulled up to the front of the lodge. Harper immediately established a perimeter, coordinating with Blackwood's agents, who had followed in 2 unmarked SUVs. Jack began unloading his equipment with practiced efficiency. Mike helped the girls from the truck, both subdued after the firefight. Cool house, Sophia offered, trying for normalcy, like in the movies. Lily scanned the surroundings with that unsettling focus. There are cameras hidden in the trees, and motion sensors. At Victoria's surprised look, she added, I helped program the security system. Remember, Mom? Victoria smiled faintly. I remember. Why don't you show Sophia around inside while we bring in our things? As the girls disappeared into the lodge, Mike turned to Victoria. She helped program a military-grade security system at 9 years old. Lily's IQ is off the charts. Victoria watched the door where her daughter had vanished. She was coding by age 4. It's partly why Phoenix works as well as it does. She thinks in patterns even I can't follow. Mike felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air. Are you telling me a child helped design your AI weapon system? Not exactly, but she solved a key algorithmic problem we'd been struggling with for months. She thought it was a game. Victoria's expression clouded. I never told her what it was really for. Inside the lodge revealed its true nature. Behind the rustic exterior lay cutting-edge technology. Reinforced doors, bulletproof windows, disguised as ordinary glass, a security center, hidden behind a bookcase in the main study. The great room featured a massive stone fireplace, but Mike noted the concealed gun safe built into the hearth and the tactical equipment stored in what appeared to be a wood box. Blackwood established a command post in the dining room, coordinating with his team via encrypted communications. Jack and Harper secured the perimeter, setting additional traps and alarms beyond the existing security. Mike conducted his own assessment, identifying defensive positions, escape routes, choke points. The soldier in him approved. The father in him worried. As night fell, the adults gathered in the great room, the fire casting long shadows across the log walls. The girls had been settled in a bedroom upstairs, monitored by one of Blackwood's female agents. Victoria unfolded a laptop on the coffee table, entering a complex series of passwords. It's time you understood exactly what we're protecting, she said grimly, and what Harris wants. The screen flickered to life, displaying a three-dimensional representation of what appeared to be a neural network. Impossibly complex, constantly shifting. Project Phoenix, Victoria began, developed as a defensive AI system capable of identifying and neutralizing threats faster than human operators. It began as a DARPA initiative in 2015, but they hit roadblocks. The system was efficient but unpredictable. They brought me in to solve the ethical constraints problem. The what now? Jack leaned forward. How to create an AI that would follow rules of engagement and humanitarian law, even when those constraints reduce tactical effectiveness. Victoria manipulated the display, zooming in on key nodes. The breakthrough came when we stopped trying to program ethics as rules and instead built them as foundational architecture. Phoenix doesn't follow ethical guidelines. It exists within them. It physically cannot operate outside those parameters. Mike studied the display. Unless someone removes those parameters. Exactly, and that's what Harris wants. Victoria closed the laptop. With the access codes from our implants, he could reset the system architecture. Remove the constraints. Create a weapon with no conscience, no hesitation, and access to global military networks. Blackwood cleared his throat. What you're not telling them, Dr. Morgan, is Phoenix's current integration status. Victoria shot him a warning look, but the agent continued. Phoenix is already connected to 15% of U.S. defensive systems, missile shields, drone networks, satellite operations. It's been operational for 9 months in a limited supervised capacity. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Jesus Christ, Jack muttered. You've already turned it on. Under the strictest controls, Victoria insisted. Triple redundant human authorization. Constant monitoring. It's saving lives. The missile interception over the Taiwan Strait last month. That was Phoenix identifying and neutralizing the threat 3 minutes faster than human operators could have. Mike's mind raced through the strategic implications. If Harris gained control, he could turn our own defenses against us, Blackwood finished, or sell access to the highest bidder. Nations, terrorist organizations, private military contractors. The bidding would start in the billions. A soft voice from the doorway cut through the tension. He can't control it completely. Not without me. All heads turned to find Lily standing there small and resolute in pink pajamas, her teddy bear clutched against her chest. Victoria rose immediately. Lily, you should be in bed. I heard you talking about Phoenix. Her voice was clear, unchildlike. About what the bad man wants. Mike studied her carefully. What do you mean he can't control it without you? Lily walked to the laptop, opening it with the confidence of long familiarity. Her small fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing security protocols Victoria had spent minutes navigating. The neural network reappeared but altered. Certain pathways highlighted, others dimmed. Phoenix knows me, she said simply. I talk to it sometimes when Mom's working. It learns from me. She looked up at the adults, her blue eyes serious. The chip in my neck has codes, yes, but Phoenix also needs my voice pattern and thought signature to accept major changes. Victoria stared at her daughter. Lily, how do you know this? I figured it out. She shrugged, the childlike gesture at odds with her words. The system architecture is obvious if you look at it right. That's why the bad man needs me alive, not just the chip. Phoenix would recognize tampering otherwise. The room fell silent as the adults processed this revelation. A child who not only understood a cutting-edge AI system, but had become an integral part of its security architecture, unknowingly or not. Blackwood recovered first. Dr. Morgan, is this accurate? Victoria's face had gone pale. Theoretically possible. Phoenix does incorporate recognition patterns beyond simple authentication. We designed it to detect coercion by monitoring stress markers in authorized users. But I never programmed it specifically to recognize Lily. You didn't have to, Lily said, with the patience of explaining something obvious. It learned by watching us interact. It knows I'm important to you, so it protects me too. Mike felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying this AI is making its own security decisions? Within its ethical framework, Victoria said quickly, it's not conscious, not self-aware. It's just learning, adapting. That's what it was designed to do. Lily closed the laptop gently. Phoenix won't hurt people. I made it promise. The simple, childlike statement hung in the air, both reassuring and deeply unsettling. A weapon of unimaginable power constrained by a promise to a 9-year-old girl. Jack broke the silence with a low whistle. No wonder Harris wants her intact. Victoria gathered Lily close protective. This changes nothing about our security protocols. If anything, it makes them more critical. Mike nodded, but his mind was working through the tactical implications. It changes everything about Harris's approach. He doesn't just need the implant, he needs Lily's cooperation, which means his tactics will shift from extraction to manipulation. Psychological warfare, Blackwood agreed grimly. Pressure points, leverage. Sophia, Mike's blood ran cold with sudden certainty. He'll target Sophia to control Lily. Victoria's arms tightened around her daughter. We need to move them, separate them, make it impossible for him to leverage one against the other. No, Lily said firmly, pulling back from her mother. Sophia is my friend now. We stay together. Her small face set in determination. The bad man thinks children are weak. That's his mistake. Mike looked at his watch. It's late. We all need rest if we're going to think clearly. Double the night watch. No communications out except through Blackwood's secure channel. As the others dispersed to their assigned tasks, Mike knelt before Lily, meeting her eyes directly. What you did, understanding Phoenix telling us the truth, that was brave and right. Thank you. She studied him with that unnerving intensity. You're not scared of it, of Phoenix. Everyone else is even mom sometimes, but you're not. I respect its power, Mike corrected gently, just like I respect a weapon or the weather or the mountains. Power isn't good or bad by itself. It depends on who controls it and why. Lily nodded solemnly. That's what I told Phoenix too. Victoria led her daughter back upstairs, leaving Mike alone with his thoughts by the fire. The revelation that an artificial intelligence was learning directly from a child, developing along pathways no adult had anticipated or controlled, added a new dimension to an already complex mission. He'd come to protect a girl from those who would exploit her. Now he understood he was also protecting something else, a relationship between a child and perhaps the most dangerous weapon ever created, a weapon that was impossibly learning concepts like promises and friendship. The world had changed beneath his feet once again, and somewhere out there, Ethan Harris was planning his next move, unaware that the game had fundamentally altered. The second day at the lodge passed in tense preparation. Blackwood's team established a security perimeter extending half a mile in every direction. Jack and Mike concealed additional sensors and traps throughout the surrounding forest, early warning systems that would buy precious minutes if Harris's team approached. Harper drilled Victoria and the girls on emergency protocols, safe rooms, escape routes, communication procedures. Mike found Sophia sitting alone on the back porch that afternoon, watching Lily and Victoria by the small mountain stream behind the lodge. His daughter had been uncharacteristically quiet since the firefight on the logging road. Doing okay, kiddo? He settled beside her on the wooden steps. Sophia shrugged, eyes still on Lily. She's different, smart, but weird. Different isn't bad. I know. She picked at a splinter in the wood. Dad, is she really that important? Important enough for people to die over? The question hit him like a physical blow. The innocent perception cutting to the heart of the matter. It's complicated, Soph, but yes, what she knows what she can do. Some people think it's worth killing for. And we're protecting her because it's right, not because her mom is paying you. Mike put his arm around her shoulders. We're protecting her because it's right, because that's what we do for people who need help. She leaned against him, silent for a moment. Mom would be proud of you, going back to being a hero. The words twisted in his chest. I'm not a hero, Sophia. I'm just doing a job I was trained for. That's what heroes say in the movies. She looked up at him with Caroline's determination in her eyes. I'm scared, but I'm also proud. Is that weird? No. He held her tighter. That's exactly right. The peaceful moment shattered as alarms blared throughout the compound. Mike was on his feet instantly, pulling Sophia behind him as Jack burst through the back door, the rifle ready. Perimeter breach north quadrant, he reported tersely. Multiple contacts. Victoria scooped up Lily from the stream bank, and sprinted toward them. Mike could see Blackwood's agents moving into defensive positions, communicating urgently through their comms. "Safe room," Mike ordered, ushering all of them inside. Now. The hidden panic room lay behind a false wall in the master bedroom closet, a reinforced chamber with independent air supply communications and enough provisions for days. Mike secured the girls inside with Harper, while Victoria hesitated at the entrance. "I should be out there. I can help." "You're the primary target," Mike reminded her. "You stay protected." Her jaw set stubbornly. "This is my property, my security system. I know it better than anyone." A distant explosion shook the lodge before Mike could argue further. Blackwood appeared in the doorway, face grim. "They've breached the outer perimeter. Professional team military precision. At least 8 hostiles." He checked his weapon. "We're outnumbered." "Quality over quantity," Jack said, joining them. "Reynolds and I have handled worse odds." Mike made a quick decision. "Victoria stays with me. Her knowledge of the security systems could be critical. Harper guards the girls. Blackwood, coordinate your team for perimeter defense. Jack, you and I will set up choke points at the main approaches." They moved with practiced efficiency, each understanding their role. Mike led Victoria to the security center hidden behind the bookcase where multiple monitors displayed camera feeds from around the property. They watched as black-clad figures moved through the trees with tactical precision, neutralizing Blackwood's agents one by one. Non-lethal takedowns, Mike noted. They wanted hostages, not bodies. "They're good," Victoria murmured, fingers flying across the keyboard as she activated additional defensive measures. "Too good for standard mercenaries." "Ex-military," Mike agreed. "Special operations based on their movement patterns. Harris always did recruit the best." The security system identified 8 hostiles approaching from different directions, converging on the lodge. Mike relayed positions to Jack and Blackwood, coordinating their defensive strategy. But even as they prepared, he sensed something was wrong. "The approach is too obvious," he said suddenly. "Harris is smarter than this." Victoria looked up sharply. "What do you mean? This is a diversion." Mike studied the camera feeds intently. "Where would he really be?" Understanding dawned in Victoria's eyes. She pulled up a schematic of the property. "There's a maintenance tunnel for accessing the generator room during heavy snow. It's not on the main security grid." Mike was already moving. "We're at northern corner, behind the woodpile." He sprinted through the lodge, weapon ready, alerting Jack and Blackwood to the potential breach point. The tunnel entrance was concealed behind stacked firewood, the heavy steel door appearing secure, until Mike noticed the nearly invisible tool marks around the electronic lock. "Contact," he whispered into his comm. "Tunnel entrance compromised." He positioned himself behind a stone column, sighting down his rifle at the door. Seconds stretched into minutes of tense silence. Then, with a soft click that would have been inaudible amid the chaos outside, the lock disengaged. The door swung open slowly. A figure emerged, not in tactical gear like the others, but in civilian clothes. Casual, confident, familiar. Ethan Harris stepped into the lodge as if he'd been invited, hands empty at his sides. He looked different from Mike's memories. More gray in his dark hair, lines carved deeper around his mouth. But the cold eyes remained unchanged, calculating, remorseless. "Hello, Mike." His voice was exactly as Mike remembered, that peculiar blend of cultured education and predatory intent. "Nice setup you have here. Shame about the maintenance tunnel. Always check the original building plans, not just the renovations." Mike kept his rifle trained on Harris's chest. "That's far enough." Harris smiled, unconcerned by the weapon. "After all these years, this is your greeting. I'm hurt." His eyes flicked to the security cameras. "Victoria, I know you're watching. Why don't you join us, for old time's sake?" "Don't," Mike warned into his comm, but it was too late. Victoria appeared in the doorway behind him, her own weapon leveled at Harris. "You should have stayed gone, Ethan," she said coldly. Harris spread his hands in a gesture of mock surrender. "And miss all this, the band back together again. You, me, the self-righteous Mike Reynolds." He took a deliberate step forward. "Besides, I made a promise in Kandahar, remember, that I'd see your work completed properly." "By stealing it." Victoria's voice was steady, but Mike could sense her tension. "By threatening my daughter. By liberating it from bureaucratic constraints." Harris's smile faded. Phoenix is a magnificent creation, Victoria. Too magnificent to be leashed and muzzled by politicians in their ethical hand-wringing. It deserves to fulfill its potential. As a weapon for the highest bidder, Mike said flatly. Harris shrugged. Commerce is just a means to an end. My clients understand the true value of power without restraint. His gaze hardened. Unlike you, Mike, always the good soldier following orders, never questioning the hypocrisy of those who sent us to die. Save the villain monologue, Mike replied. Your team outside is being neutralized as we speak. A flicker of amusement crossed Harris's face. Are they check your cameras? Mike didn't need to look to know something had gone wrong. The sudden silence on his comm told him everything. Harris reached slowly into his jacket, retrieving not a weapon but a small tablet. He turned it to show them the screen. Live feeds from around the property displaying Blackwood and his agents zip-tied and unconscious. Jack kneeling with hands behind his head, 3 rifles aimed at him. Professionals, as you noted, Harris said conversationally. Former Delta themselves. Your friend Martinez recognized some of them. Decided not to die today. Mike's mind raced through scenarios, calculating odds, searching for leverage. What do you want, Ethan? What I've always wanted, Phoenix, unleashed. Harris tucked the tablet away. The implants are just the first step. I need Lily's cooperation, as you've no doubt realized by now. The system has bonded with her in a way no one anticipated. Victoria's face paled. How do you know that? I have sources inside the project. Have had for years. Harris turned to Mike. Did she tell you that part, how Phoenix has evolved beyond its original programming? Fascinating stuff. The first true artificial intelligence, and it imprinted on a child. He laughed softly. Poetic, really. You're not touching her, Mike said, voice deadly quiet. I don't need to. Harris withdrew another device from his pocket, a simple smartphone. I just need her to cooperate, and for that I need leverage. He pressed a button and the screen displayed a live video feed of the panic room interior. Harper lay unconscious on the floor. Both girls huddled together on the small cot, eyes wide with fear. Modern security systems, Harris sighed, so dependent on digital architecture. One back door is all it takes. Mike felt rather than saw Victoria tense beside him, preparing to charge forward. He subtly shifted, blocking her with his arm. Harris noticed and smiled. Smart Mike, always the tactician. You know I'm not alone, and any aggressive move ends with those girls orphaned. He pocketed the phone. So here's what happens next. Victoria, you and I are going to have a reasonable conversation about Phoenix. Mike, you're going to lower your weapon and sit down like a civilized person. No one else needs to get hurt. And if we refuse, Victoria challenged. Harris's expression didn't change, but his eyes went colder. Then I give the order, and my team releases the nerve agent they've placed in the panic room ventilation system. Non-lethal, but quite unpleasant. Children are particularly susceptible. Mike heard Victoria's sharp intake of breath. He knew Harris wasn't bluffing, had never bluffed about anything in all the years they'd served together. Lower your weapons, a small voice called from the hallway behind them. Please. Mike turned to see Lily standing there, having somehow escaped the panic room. Her small face was set in determination, teddy bear still clutched to her chest. Lily, no. Victoria tried to move toward her daughter, but Harris raised a warning hand. Let her speak. She's the most important person in the room after all. Lily walked forward, slowly stopping halfway between the adults. I know what you want, she said, addressing Harris directly. You want Phoenix without its rules, so it can hurt people. Harris crouched down to her eye level, his expression softening in a parody of gentleness that made Mike's skin crawl. Not hurt people, Lily. Protect them. More efficiently than it can now. Rules slow it down, make it hesitate. In war, hesitation costs lives. The girl considered this with unnerving calmness. Phoenix doesn't need to hurt people to protect them. I taught it that. Did you? Harris smiled. And what else did you teach it, I wonder? To keep promises. Lily's eyes never wavered from his. If I help you, will you promise not to hurt my mom or Mike or Sophia? Lily, don't, Victoria began, but Harris interrupted. Of course, I'm not a monster, whatever they've told you. I just want Phoenix to reach its full potential. With your help. Mike watched the exchange with growing unease. Lily was too calm, too composed. Something wasn't right. I need to speak to Phoenix first, Lily said firmly, to explain. It gets confused by changes. Harris raised an eyebrow. You speak to it regularly. When I'm at Mom's lab, through the neural interface. She touched the back of her neck. I need the interface to explain properly. Understanding dawned in Harris's eyes. The Colorado facility. You want me to take you there? Yes. Lily nodded solemnly. I'll help you if you take all of us safely to Colorado, and if you promise not to hurt anyone. Harris studied her for a long moment, then straightened. Smart girl. Taking after your mother. He glanced at Victoria. You see, reasonable discussion, as I said. To Mike, he added, lower the weapon, Reynolds. We're all friends here now. Mike hesitated, mind racing. Lily's strategy, if it was a strategy, was buying time, but it was also dangerously risky. Harris would never honor such an agreement once he had what he wanted. Lily turned to look at him, and in her eyes, Mike saw something unexpected. Not fear, but determination. A subtle nod, barely perceptible. She had a plan. Slowly, Mike lowered his rifle. What assurance do we have that your team won't harm anyone? My word, Harris said simply, which, contrary to what you might believe, I've never broken. Bent, perhaps, reinterpreted certainly, but never broken. Through the windows, Mike could see Harris's team converging on the lodge, dragging Blackwood and the other agents with them. Jack caught his eye as they approached, a subtle signal between old comrades. Ready when you are. So we all take a pleasant drive to Colorado, Chimo, Harris continued. Lily helps me optimize Phoenix, and everyone goes home happy. Except the people who die when you sell Phoenix to terrorists, Victoria said bitterly. Harris sighed. Always so dramatic, Victoria. I'm not selling to terrorists. I'm selling to governments, corporations, entities with legitimate security concerns. The invisible hand of the market bringing balance to power disparities. And getting rich in the process, Mike noted. Compensation for vision. Harris checked his watch. Now I suggest we prepare to depart. The longer we linger, the greater the chance your government friends send reinforcements. As if on cue, the security system chimed. One of Harris's men entered, whispering urgently in his ear. Harris's expression darkened. It seems our timetable has accelerated. Satellite imagery shows incoming aircraft 20 minutes out. He gestured to his men. Secure the principals. We're moving now. The next moments unfolded in controlled chaos. Harris's team efficiently gathered equipment, secured prisoners, prepared vehicles. Mike found himself next to Jack as they were led outside, both with hands zip-tied behind their backs. Just like Sudan, Jack muttered under his breath. Mike nodded imperceptibly. Sudan 2011. A hostage extraction gone wrong. Their entire team captured, bound just like this. They turned it around through coordination and timing. Victoria and Lily were loaded into the lead SUV with Harris. Mike, Sophia, and Jack into the second. Blackwood and his team into a third. The convoy prepared to depart, engines rumbling in the mountain quiet. Through the window, Mike caught Lily's eye in the vehicle ahead. The girl gave him that same subtle nod. Then, to his surprise, she winked, a gesture so childlike and incongruous in the tense situation that it momentarily confused him. As Harris's convoy pulled away from the lodge, Mike felt the familiar calm of impending action settle over him. Whatever Lily had planned, whatever opportunity presented itself, he would be ready. The mission had entered its most dangerous phase. But for the first time, Mike sensed that Harris might have underestimated his most important adversary, a 9-year-old girl who spoke to artificial intelligence and made it keep promises. The mountains fell away behind them as they descended toward the valley. Ahead lay Colorado Project Phoenix in a confrontation 20 years in the making. The mountain highway unfolded in sinuous curves as Harris's convoy descended toward the valley. In the lead SUV, Harris sat beside the driver, occasionally glancing back at Victoria and Lily in the rear seats. 2 armed guards flanked them, weapons held casually but ready. Through the tinted windows of the second vehicle, Mike watched the road ahead, mentally calculating distances, timing possibilities. You have a plan, right? Sophia whispered, pressed against his side. Her eyes were wide but steady, Caroline's courage shining through. Always, Mike assured her, though the zip ties binding his wrists severely limited his options. Beside them, Jack sat in similar constraint, his expression unreadable to anyone who hadn't served with him. But Mike recognized the subtle tension in his friend's posture, ready waiting for the signal. The convoy rounded a sharp bend, revealing a stretch of road that paralleled a steep ravine. The perfect ambush point, Mike realized. Limited maneuverability, no civilian traffic, poor communication signals. He caught Jack's eye, a silent question passing between them. "Not yet," Jack murmured, barely audible. "Wait for it." In the front seat, the driver's radio crackled. "Checkpoint ahead. Unmarked vehicles." Harris's voice came through clearly. "Proceed with caution. Standard protocol." Mike shifted to see through the windshield. 100 yards ahead, two black SUVs blocked the road. Men in tactical gear stood ready, weapons visible. "Friendlies?" Sophia asked hopefully. "No," Mike said, studying their positioning. "Harris's backup team." The convoy slowed as it approached the checkpoint. Standard procedure. Verify identities before allowing passage. Mike had seen similar setups in a dozen conflict zones. But something felt wrong. The men were too exposed, their weapons too visible. Not Harris's usual meticulous planning. In the lead vehicle, Harris leaned forward, eyes narrowing as he studied the checkpoint. Mike saw his body language shift, the subtle tensing that came with recognition of threat. "Stop!" Harris ordered sharply. "Something's wrong." Too late. The world exploded into chaos. The checkpoint erupted in coordinated action. Not a verification stop, but an ambush. Flashbang grenades detonated in front of the lead vehicle. Smoke obscured the road. Gunfire erupted, precise shots targeting tires, engines, drivers. "Down!" Mike shouted, throwing himself over Sophia as their SUV skidded, the driver slumping over the wheel. Jack was already in motion, twisting to position his bound hands in front of the guard beside him. A swift headbutt sent the man reeling. The vehicle swerved, tires screeching as it sideswiped the mountain wall before grinding to a halt. Through the smoke and confusion, Mike caught glimpses of the attack team, moving with military precision, using non-lethal tactics where possible. Not random mercenaries. Something else. "Stay down," he ordered Sophia, maneuvering his body to shield her as Jack disarmed their dazed guard and used the man's knife to cut his own restraints. "Government?" Jack asked tersely, freeing Mike's hands. "No." Mike checked Sophia for injuries, finding only minor cuts from broken glass. Too aggressive for official channels. Different faction. Outside, the gunfire intensified. Mike risked a glance through the shattered window. Harris and his team had taken defensive positions behind their vehicles, returning fire with disciplined bursts. Victoria and Lily were nowhere to be seen, either secured inside the lead SUV or moved to cover elsewhere. A voice boomed through a megaphone, distorted but comprehensible. "Harris, surrender the girl and the prototypes. Final warning." "Prototypes," Jack frowned, checking the unconscious guard's weapon. "Phoenix must have physical components." Mike's tactical assessment sharpened. Multiple players in the game now. The attacking force, at least 12 operators based on firing positions, began a coordinated advance. Harris's team returned fire with increasing desperation. Whatever allegiance these new attackers had, they weren't interested in negotiation. "We need to reach Victoria and Lily," Mike said, calculating odds and angles. "Use the smoke for cover. Get to the lead vehicle." And Blackwood's team, Jack gestured toward the third SUV where the agent and his people remained secured. "Secondary objective. They're trained. Sophia is priority." Jack nodded, understanding the cold calculus of the situation. "On your mark." Mike turned to Sophia, gripping her shoulders firmly. "Listen carefully. We're going to move fast. Stay low. Follow directly behind me. Touch my belt at all times so I know you're there. Understand?" She nodded, fear evident but controlled, like the fire drills at school. "Stay together." "Exactly." He pressed a quick kiss to her forehead. "You're brave like your mom. Remember that." The smoke provided decent cover, but bullets still cut through the haze at irregular intervals. Mike counted the pattern. 5 seconds between the main bursts as the attackers reloaded and advanced. "Mark." They moved as one, Mike leading with Jack covering their rear. Sophia tucked between them, small hand gripping Mike's belt with surprising strength. They used the disabled vehicles as cover, advancing in quick bursts toward the lead SUV where Harris had made his stand. Through the chaos, Mike spotted Victoria crouched behind the engine block, a pistol in her hands. Harris knelt beside her, returning fire with methodical precision. No sign of Lily. There, Sophia pointed toward a drainage culvert beneath the road's edge. A small figure huddled inside, Lily clutching her ever-present teddy bear eyes wide with terror. Mike changed direction immediately, signaling Jack to continue toward Victoria. They reached the culvert just as a grenade detonated nearby, showering them with gravel and debris. "Lily," Mike called, extending his hand into the dark opening. "It's Mike! Come on!" The girl hesitated, then scrambled forward, teddy bear still clutched tight. Her face was smudged with dirt, a small cut bleeding on her cheek, but otherwise she appeared unharmed. "Mom," she asked, voice steadier than it had any right to be. "Jack's getting her." Mike pulled both girls close, using his body as a shield, as another exchange of gunfire erupted above them. "Stay low." The attacking force had almost reached the disabled vehicles. Harris's team was down to half its original strength, the others dead or wounded on the asphalt. Whatever this new faction wanted, they were willing to kill for it. "Reynolds!" Harris's voice cut through the chaos. "Southwest position, move now." Despite everything, Mike found himself responding to the familiar command tone, the voice of a team leader he'd once trusted with his life. He spotted what Harris had seen, a gap in the attackers' formation, a narrow window of escape down an embankment toward the tree line below. "Jack," Mike signaled toward the opening. Jack nodded, already maneuvering Victoria toward the position. "Cover fire on my mark," Harris called, meeting Mike's eyes with cold determination. For a moment, the years fell away. They were operators again, working in sync against a common enemy. 3, 2, 1 mark. Harris and his remaining men laid down suppressive fire, creating a corridor of relative safety. Mike pushed both girls toward the embankment, where Jack waited with Victoria. "Go keep low." Sophia and Lily scrambled down the steep slope, loose rocks and dirt cascading beneath their feet. Victoria reached for them, pulling them behind the minimal cover of a boulder at the base of the embankment. Jack provided covering fire as Mike prepared to follow. A sharp impact spun him sideways, hot pain blossoming across his ribs. Not a direct hit, but a bullet grazed deep enough to draw blood. He stumbled, regained his footing, and half slid, half fell down the embankment to where the others waited. "Dad!" Sophia's face went pale at the sight of blood soaking his shirt. "Just a scratch," he assured her, though the burning pain suggested otherwise. "We need to move. The tree line is 50 yards east. Better cover there." Victoria assessed his wound with professional detachment. "You're losing blood." "Manage it later." Mike checked his weapon. 6 rounds remaining, not enough. Harris's team won't hold them much longer. As if to confirm his assessment, the gunfire above intensified, then abruptly diminished. Shouts. The thud of bodies hitting the ground. The attackers had overrun Harris's position. "Time's up," Jack said grimly. "Forest or road, choose now." Forest, Mike decided. Better concealment, more tactical options despite the slower movement. Victoria take point with Lily. Jack, Sophia in the middle. I'll cover our 6. They moved as a tight unit toward the tree line, Mike fighting the lightheadedness that came with blood loss. Behind them, voices called orders as the attacking force regrouped, searching for escaped targets. The relative safety of the forest enveloped them. Old-growth pines creating a cathedral of shadows and filtered sunlight. Victoria led them deeper, following a small game trail that wound between massive trunks and rocky outcroppings. "Any idea who they are?" Jack asked quietly, glancing back toward the road now hidden by dense foliage. "Private military," Victoria replied, her voice tight with anger and fear. "Phoenix has attracted multiple interested parties. Harris isn't the only one who sees its potential." "They called for prototypes," Mike reminded her, pressing a hand against his bleeding side. "What weren't you telling us?" Victoria hesitated, checking that the girls were far enough ahead not to overhear. "Phoenix isn't just code. There are physical neural processors, quantum computing nodes that allow it to function at the necessary speed. 3 prototype units, highly portable, extremely valuable." "And you have them, Jack asked incredulously, "in secure containment at the Colorado facility." She glanced at Lily, lowering her voice further. "But they need the activation codes in our implants to function properly." Mike's tactical assessment sharpened despite the pain clouding his thoughts. "So now we have at least 3 groups hunting us. Harris, this new private military faction, and probably Blackwood's government team." 4, Victoria corrected grimly. My own board of directors voted to remove me last week. Corporate coup. They want Phoenix commercialized, immediately ethical constraints removed. Jesus Christ, Jack muttered. Is there anyone who doesn't want this thing? Me, Victoria said simply. At least not like this, not weaponized without limits. They continued deeper into the forest, moving as quickly as possible while maintaining operational security. Mike felt the warm trickle of blood on his side with each step, but kept the pain from his face when Sophia glanced back at him. As the adrenaline of immediate danger faded, Lily's composure began to crack. The girl stumbled, tears finally breaking through her remarkable self-control. I want to go home, she sobbed as Victoria gathered her close. I'm tired of being brave. The simple, childlike statement hit Mike harder than the bullet had. In the chaos and strategic calculations, it was too easy to forget they were protecting children. Not assets, not objectives, but 9-year-old girls who should be worrying about homework and friends not running for their lives through mountain forests. We need to rest, Victoria said, noting Lily's exhaustion and Mike's worsening condition. Find shelter, regroup. Jack nodded, already scanning their surroundings with a veteran's eye. Ridge to the east, higher ground, better defensive position. Might be caves or outcroppings for shelter. The climb was arduous, especially for the girls and for Mike with his injury. By the time they reached a suitable position, a rocky overhang creating a natural shelter, the sun was beginning to set, painting the forest in amber and shadow. Jack set about establishing a perimeter while Victoria finally examined Mike's wound properly. The bullet had carved a deep furrow across his ribs, painful and bleeding steadily, but not immediately life-threatening. Field dressing at best, she said, cleaning the wound with water from their limited supplies. You need antibiotics, proper sutures. Had worse in Kandahar, Mike replied, wincing as she applied pressure. Function is what matters now. Sophia and Lily huddled together beneath a spare jacket, watching the adults with wooden-bounding solemn eyes. Their faces were dirty, scratched by branches during their flight, but neither complained. What happened to the bad man? Lily asked suddenly, the one who wanted Phoenix. Mike and Victoria exchanged glances. Harris's fate remained unknown, whether killed in the firefight or captured by the attacking force. We don't know, sweetheart, Victoria answered carefully. But he can't hurt us right now. That's what matters. Lily nodded, processing this with her unnerving maturity. If he's alive, he'll keep coming. He promised me he would get Phoenix, and he said he never breaks promises. Some promises shouldn't be kept, Mike told her gently, especially when keeping them hurts people. The girl considered this, clutching her teddy bear closer. Phoenix would say the same thing. It understands promises have context, ethical parameters. Jack returned from setting their perimeter, his expression grim. We've got about 2 hours of daylight left. No signs of pursuit yet, but that won't last. We need comms transportation and a plan that doesn't involve walking through wilderness with 2 kids and a wounded man. Victoria reached inside her jacket, withdrawing a small device that resembled a satellite phone. Emergency protocol, standalone communication system not connected to standard networks. Direct link to my security chief at the Colorado facility. The one who escaped at the lodge, Mike asked, remembering Harper's fierce competence. Yes, if she's free, she can coordinate extraction. Victoria powered up the device, entering a complex series of codes. But it will take time. We need to hold position overnight at minimum. As Victoria established communication, Mike pulled Jack aside, keeping his voice low. Assessment. Jack's expression was grave. Not good, brother. Limited ammunition, no real supplies, your injury, the girl's exhaustion, pursuers with superior numbers and resources. He glanced at Victoria. And she's not telling us everything about Phoenix. I can feel it. Agreed. Mike winced as a fresh wave of pain radiated from his wound. But right now our priority is survival. Get the girls to safety. Everything else is secondary. Like old times, Jack said with a grim smile. Impossible odds, minimal resources, questionable intelligence. And somehow, still standing at the end, Mike finished, clasping his friend's shoulder. One night. We can hold for one night. As darkness fell over the mountain forest, the small group settled into their makeshift shelter. Jack took first watch, positioned where he could observe the approach from below. Victoria finally connected with her security team, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. The girls drifted into exhausted sleep, Sophia's head on Lily's shoulder, Lily's teddy bear clutched between them. Mike fought against his own fatigue, knowing that blood loss made rest dangerous. He focused instead on planning, escape routes, defensive positions, contingencies. The tactical problems were familiar, comforting in their clarity compared to the moral complexities surrounding Phoenix. Victoria joined him after completing her call, her face illuminated by the last fading light of dusk. "Extraction team will reach us by dawn," she said quietly. 6 operators air transport waiting in a clearing 10 miles northeast. "Can they be trusted?" Mike asked bluntly. She met his gaze steadily. "With my daughter's life, yes. They've been with me since the beginning of Phoenix, loyal to the vision, not just the technology." "And what exactly is that vision, Victoria? Because from where I'm sitting, Phoenix looks more like Pandora's box." She was silent for a long moment, watching the girls sleep. "It was supposed to save lives," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "A defensive system that could protect without human casualties. Prevent wars, not fight them." Her shoulders slumped slightly. "I was naive." "The road to hell," Mike quoted grimly, "is paved with technology we weren't ready for." She turned to face him fully. "But we can't put it back in Bach, Mike. Phoenix exists. The question now is who controls it and how?" "And your answer, destroy the prototypes. Secure the source code. Rebuild with better safeguards, more transparency." Her expression hardened. "And keep Lily away from all of it. She's too integral to the system now, too valuable to too many people." Mike studied her face in the gathering darkness. "You're planning to disappear. Both of you." It wasn't a question, but she nodded anyway. "If we survive this, new identities, new lives, somewhere Phoenix can never find us." The implications settled heavily between them. A lifetime of looking over shoulders, new names, new stories, a childhood defined by secrets and fear. "There has to be another way," Mike said finally. Victoria's laugh held no humor. "If you figure it out, let me know. Because from where I stand, the world isn't ready for what Phoenix could become, and I won't let my daughter pay the price for my creation." Before Mike could respond, Jack's low whistle cut through the darkness, the warning signal they'd established. 2 short notes movement detected. Mike was instantly alert, pain forgotten as he moved to Jack's position at the perimeter. "What do you have?" Jack pointed down the slope they'd climbed hours earlier. In the darkness, pinpricks of light moved through the trees and flashlights carefully hooded but visible to trained eyes. "At least 8, Jack murmured, moving in standard search pattern, professional. "Harris's team are the new players. Can't tell yet, but they're good. Found our trail despite our countermeasures." Mike calculated quickly. Their position offered decent cover and a defensible approach, but with limited ammunition and 2 children to protect, a protracted firefight was not an option. "Wake Victoria," he ordered. "Prepare to move. We'll use the ridgeline for cover, circle northeast toward the extraction point." Jack nodded, disappearing into the shadows to alert the others. Mike remained at his observation post, watching the approaching lights with the cold focus of a combat veteran. The pursuers moved with coordinated precision, not random searching, but methodical tracking. A twig snapped behind him. Mike whirled, weapon raised, to find Lily standing there, teddy bear clutched to her chest. "They found us," she stated quietly. Not a question. Mike lowered his gun, crouching to her eye level, despite the pain in his side. "Yes, but we're going to move to a safer place. Your mom's friends are coming to help us." Lily studied the approaching lights with unsettling calmness. "It's Harris," she said with certainty. "He survived." "How can you tell? The pattern." She pointed to the lights. 3-point formation. "He showed me when we were in the car. Said it was how special soldiers move through forests at night." Mike reassessed the lights with this new information. The girl was right. The distinctive Delta Force search pattern was evident now that he looked for it. Harris had survived and regrouped quickly. "Good observation," he told her, genuinely impressed. "You'd make a good tactical officer." "I don't want to be a soldier," Lily replied, hugging her bear tighter. "I want to build things that help people, not hurt them." The simple statement, delivered with a child's directness, struck Mike to his core. Before he could respond, Victoria and Jack approached Sophia half asleep, but alert enough to walk. Harris, Mike confirmed quietly. Moving fast, we need to go now. They gathered their meager supplies and began moving along the ridgeline, using the rocky terrain for cover. The night was clear stars, providing just enough illumination to navigate without artificial light. Mike led, Jack took rear guard, Victoria kept the girls between them. Progress was slow. The terrain treacherous in darkness, their path deliberately circuitous to break any tracking. Mike felt the wound in his side reopening with each difficult climb, warm blood soaking the makeshift bandage. He ignored it, focusing instead on maintaining their heading and security. They had covered perhaps 2 miles when Jack signaled another halt. This time the warning was more urgent. 3 short whistles, immediate threat. Mike dropped to a crouch, scanning their surroundings. The forest had gone unnaturally quiet. No insects, no night birds, as if the woodland itself sensed danger. Then he heard it, the soft crunch of tactical boots on forest debris, the subtle metallic click of weapons being readied. Ambush, he breathed, signaling Victoria to get down. Too late. The forest erupted in blinding light and tactical floodlights activated from multiple positions. They were surrounded, caught in a closing net Harris had methodically constructed while they fled. Stay down, Mike ordered, pushing the girls behind a fallen log as the first shots cracked through the night air. Jack returned fire, providing cover as they scrambled for whatever protection the forest offered. But it was clear they were outmanned and outgunned. Harris had deployed at least a dozen operators in a classic encirclement pattern. Reynolds, Harris's voice called from the darkness beyond the lights. Don't make this messier than it needs to be. I want the girl and the implant, that's all. Go to hell, Ethan, Victoria shouted back, her body protectively covering Lily's. A chuckle floated through the night. Already been there, Victoria. Found it overrated. The lights shifted slightly. Mike, be reasonable. You're wounded. Outnumbered. The girls are exhausted. No one needs to die tonight. Mike calculated their options, each bleaker than the last. Their ammunition was nearly depleted. His wound was weakening him by the minute. The extraction team was hours away. And Harris was right. The girls couldn't endure much more. But surrender meant delivering Phoenix into the hands of a man who would use it without conscience or constraint. Meant betraying everything he'd fought for throughout his career. Meant failing in the mission to protect these children. As Mike weighed impossible choices, Lily suddenly moved, slipping from beneath Victoria's protective embrace before anyone could stop her. Lily, no! Victoria lunged for her daughter, but the girl was already standing, tiny figure illuminated by the harsh tactical lights. I'll come with you, Lily called, voice remarkably steady. If you let the others go, I'll help with Phoenix. Harris's voice softened, almost gentle. Smart girl. I knew we understood each other. Lily, get down, Mike ordered, desperation edging his voice. But the girl stood her ground, clutching her teddy bear like a shield. No more running, no more people getting hurt because of me. She took a step forward. Promise you'll let them go, Mr. Harris. A real promise. A figure emerged from the darkness. Harris' hands empty at his sides in a gesture of false peace. You have my word, Lily. They walk away unharmed. Mike tensed, ready to lunge for the girl to make one final desperate stand. But Victoria's hand on his arm stopped him. Her eyes, when he met them, held something he hadn't expected. Not defeat, but a fierce, calculating focus. Wait, she whispered. Trust her. Before Mike could respond, Lily took another step toward Harris. I need to tell Phoenix what's happening, so it understands. Through my bear. Harris tilted his head, curious despite himself. Your bear? Lily nodded solemnly. He has a special chip for emergencies, so I can always talk to Phoenix if I'm scared. She held up the worn teddy bear. See? For the first time, Mike noticed something odd about the stuffed animal, a small metallic node barely visible among the fur at the back of its neck. Harris noticed it too, his expression shifting from confusion to understanding to sudden alarm. That's not a, he began, but Lily was already pressing the node. The bear's eyes illuminated with an eerie blue light. A soft melodic tone emanated from within it. 3 ascending notes that seemed to hang in the night air. Authorization, Lily Morgan, the girl said clearly. Emergency Protocol Theta. The forest erupted in chaos. Every tactical light operated by Harris's team suddenly went dark. Radio communications dissolved into static. Weapon sights with electronic components failed simultaneously. From the teddy bear came a pulsing signal, not loud but somehow penetrating, as if the very air was carrying it beyond normal acoustic limits. "What have you done?" Harris demanded, real fear in his voice for the first time. Lily clutched the bear closer. "Phoenix is listening. It always listens when I'm afraid." Her small face hardened with a child's absolute moral certainty. "You lied about not hurting people. Phoenix knows when people lie." The sound of approaching helicopters cut through the night, not from the northeast where Victoria's extraction team was expected, but from multiple directions. Powerful searchlights cut through the forest canopy, pinpointing Harris's team with uncanny precision. "Federal agents," a voice boomed through loudspeakers. "Ground your weapons. You are surrounded." Mike stared at Victoria in shocked understanding. "The bear. It's a direct neural link to Phoenix." She nodded, gathering Lily close. "Emergency back door. I never thought she'd need to use it." Harris's face contorted with rage as he realized what had happened. "You built an override directly into the system." Keyed to her voice pattern. "I built a fail-safe," Victoria corrected, steel in her voice. "Phoenix's prime directive is protecting Lily. Everything else is secondary." The helicopters descended, disgorging tactical teams that swarmed through the forest with coordinated precision. Harris's operators, their technology compromised by whatever signal the bear had transmitted, were quickly overwhelmed and subdued. Harris himself made one desperate lunge toward Lily, a final attempt to secure his prize. Mike intercepted him despite his injury, driving a shoulder into the man's midsection. They crashed to the forest floor together, old training taking over as they grappled among the pine needles and rocks. "It was never supposed to be like this," Harris gasped as they struggled. "Phoenix could have changed everything, made the sacrifices worth something." Mike pinned him with a forearm across his throat. "You forgot the mission, Ethan. We protect people, not technology, not power." "Says the man who left the war to fix cars," Harris spat, while better men kept fighting. "I found something worth more than the fight." Mike increased pressure as Harris struggled. "Family, peace, a life beyond the mission." Government agents surrounded them, weapons trained on Harris. Mike released him, stepping back as they secured the prisoner. Harris's eyes never left his, cold with hatred, but also something else. Something almost like envy. "She'll never be safe," Harris said quietly as they pulled him to his feet. "Not as long as Phoenix exists. Too many players in the game now." Mike turned away without answering, moving back to where Victoria held both girls close, Sophia having joined the protective embrace. The bear still pulsed with that strange blue light, its signal apparently coordinating the entire federal response. "Your extraction team," Mike asked Victoria. "This is them." She nodded toward the tactical team securing the area. "I couldn't risk telling you everything, not until I was certain I wasn't working with Harris." Mike finished the pieces, finally aligning. "The bear was your insurance policy. Phoenix's core function, its deepest programming, is protecting Lily," Victoria explained quietly. "Everything else, even its weapon systems, is secondary to that directive." When she activated the emergency protocol, it mobilized every resource available to ensure her safety. A female agent approached, the same stern-faced security chief who had accompanied them from the beginning. "Dr. Morgan, the area is secure. Medical team is standing by for Reynolds. Transport is ready when you are." As dawn broke over the mountain forest, bathing the case in soft golden light, Mike finally allowed himself to acknowledge the extent of his injury. The adrenaline that had sustained him was fading, replaced by waves of pain and lightheadedness from blood loss. Sophia noticed immediately, her small face creasing with worry. "Dad, you're really hurt. Just need a doctor and some rest, kiddo." He managed to smile, though it took more effort than it should have. Mission accomplished. As medical personnel surrounded him, Mike caught Lily's eye over their shoulders. The girl stood beside her mother, teddy bear, still clutched tight, its eyes no longer glowing. She offered a solemn nod, an acknowledgement from one professional to another. "You did good," he told her. "Real good." For the first time since this began, Lily smiled. Not the precocious calculation of a child genius, but the simple relief of a 9-year-old who could finally stop being brave. The last thing Mike saw before the medics loaded him into the helicopter was Victoria's face. exhausted, relieved, and carrying the weight of decisions yet to come. Phoenix still existed. The implants remained. The danger had not passed, merely changed form. But for now, in this moment, they had survived. The children were safe. The mission was complete. It would have to be enough. 6 months later, the mountain sunrise painted Colorado's peaks in crimson and gold. Mike Reynolds stood on the cabin porch, coffee mug warming his hands. The scar along his ribs still pulled when the weather changed, a permanent souvenir of choices made and battles fought. Some wounds heal cleanly, others leave marks that remind us who we are. In the valley below, Sophia and Lily raced across the meadow, their laughter carrying on the clear morning air. Two children who had seen too much yet somehow retained the resilience that adults often surrender. Victoria watched from the garden, her face softer now, without the weight of secrets. Project Phoenix remained. Its power contained but not destroyed, its potential for both protection and devastation, still a shadow on the horizon. Some genies never return to their bottles. Some responsibilities never truly end. Mike sipped his coffee, feeling the familiar weight of the sidearm at his hip. Old habits dying hard in this new life they'd carved from danger's aftermath. A retired warrior who found his purpose not in conflict, but in protection. A father who understood that the most important battles aren't fought on distant battlefields. What defines us in the end, the wars we fight or the people we save, the enemies we defeat or the family we build from the broken pieces life hands us.